Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we pray this day for your ever-enduring guidance. We ask you to clothe us in wisdom and fortitude that we may dispense our knowledge and facts intelligently among all humanity of whom we serve. Amen. Okay, announcement of items discussed in closed session.
The board met in closed session for a conference with legal counsel regarding the existing litigation, and there was no reportable action.
Okay, agenda approval, additions and deletions. I would like to adjourn the meeting in memory of Vera Young and Roger Roper, both from Westwood. Any other?
Mr. Chairman, in light of the fact that Supervisor Chapman and Wassick are not going to be here today, I would just suggest you may want to discuss delaying items D1 and or D2 to future meeting. We have a quorum, but those are significant issues that you may want to consider having the whole board for. So I just put that for your consideration.
D1?
I'm sorry, D7 and D8. I'm sorry. I was reading 7 and 8 and saying 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay, is that agreeable with everybody? Is there anybody in the audience that would make an issue with? Seeing none, I guess. That's the board. Spencer would like to pull J3 and consent calendar. J3. Anybody else? Anything you've been done to the ballot change? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Okay. With that, we go to the public comment. And we start off with Mrs. Spencer.
Ken We Hope has asked me to read this, and we've entitled it Gentle Reminder. And I'm just going to read it into the record. It's very short. This is the people's meeting. You sit in those 5 seats because we, the people, put you there. All 5 of you need a gentle reminder of that fact. Your continued rude descriptions and disrespect of the people that attend these meetings does not demean them, but greatly diminishes the value of you sitting in those seats. This is our meeting, and if you have lost sight of that, then you have sat there much too long.
I would like to clarify, I am not rude to people. Never. If anything, just the opposite. That's enough. We're done. Matt?
Good morning. Sheriff wanted me to briefly speak with you about the condition of Eagle Lake and what we've done. So far this year, we placed some buoys between Pelican Point and Browns Point. We've ran those from point to point. Anything north of that's going to be 5 miles per hour. The water's just really shallow right now. There's a lot of hidden objects underneath the water, and we're not going to be able to locate all of them and mark all of them. So people need to just be very cautious of the entire lake, but especially north of those points. So anything north of that's going to be 5 miles per hour, and we still only have the one ramp open that Forest Service put in last year at Gallatin. So it's just
That's the only ramp to the lake. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. That's just the lake's still in dire straits and very, very low, and it continues to drop. So just want to remind everybody to be very careful out there. We're not going to be able to mark all of the objects. We're going to do our best, but they have to be real cautious out there because You won't know until you're on top of it.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're there, right?
Okay?
Okay,
Thank
thank you, Matt. David Cole?
Morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to sort of wrap up my visit to Denmark on behalf of Lassen County. I spoke to them, we had a ceremony on April 27th and presented to them the proclamation of the 150-year anniversary of Lassen County. And they were actually thrilled. They had been here in the early 90s, the Lassen, Peter Lassen Boy Scout troop. Actually, it's not just boys, it's boys and girls that are in their scout troops. They actually call themselves spiders, not scouts. But nevertheless, they arranged for the ceremony to take place in the new National Museum of Immigration, where they had just the day before opened an exhibit on immigration to America. And so that was really apropos. And it was well attended, it was on television news, it was in newspapers, I bought a couple copies of the articles. And I thought, and they also gave me a picture that they hoped would have some significance. This is the Peter Lassen Monument in Denmark, which is quite similar to the one that's here. It's a little smaller, actually. It was moved in 1947 and restored in a town square in the old section of town very near the house that he was born. They also gave me a photograph of the land where the house, yeah, where the land is that Peter Lassen's birthplace stands on, and that it's just a field. And that picture was given to the museum.
Could we see it too?
Sorry?
Could we see it too?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be a hot item, Dave.
What? Well, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
So the people in Denmark know who Supervisor is.
They do. And the neat part is, before I even got over there, I had reached out to see if I could find any of the scouts that were here, the spiders. Well, I'm not used to calling them spiders. And by gum, one of them responded, and she was a little girl who traveled here and stayed with a family here in Susanville, and she said, oh, I'm excited, I'll be there, and half a dozen of them showed up. A couple of the scout leaders showed up as well, and they were just thrilled to rekindle, and they regaled me with stories. In fact, they talked about how some members of the community that they were staying with were sort of, and I think, Tony, you had mentioned this, somebody had mentioned this, sort of surprised that they were so at ease with themselves that they started changing into their clothes right on the shore of Eagle Lake. They didn't go in, they had no modesty in that. They're like, oh, what are you doing? But there were words exchanged, and I just want to read very briefly, and then I'll sit down, the words that the mayor said. And they don't have a town mayor, they have a county mayor. And his name was Ola Banda Christensen. He was the mayor. And I just want to read a couple sentences. The proclamation that you, Mr. Cole, have now handed over on behalf of Lassen County to the municipality of Farisu, that's the name of the county, documents the significance that Lassen had and still has as Lassen County carries his name. And we are proud to learn that a citizen of our county has made his mark in such a great way. Farnham is now part of a county called Farisu, and our vision statement says, we create solutions together. Our aim is to ensure strong communities where our citizens take on the responsibility to develop a society that benefits all of us. Peter Lassen's life and achievements are indeed an inspiration to this vision. When we walk past Peter Lassen's monument on the main street here in Farnham, when we meet scouts from the Peter Lassen's troop, when we are on the train in Denmark that's named after him, we are reminded of our American connection. So it was really thrilling just to go and create that connection again, and they hope we don't wait that long next time. This is something for the record. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thanks, Dave.
Dennis Hines. Hello, Dennis.
Good morning. Let me introduce myself real quick for those of you who weren't here when I first started speaking to the board years ago. I'm Dennis Hines. I'm a native son of California, born in San Francisco in 1939. I'm a medical marijuana patient, and I use marijuana to treat migraine, alcoholism, tobacco addiction. have chronic pain from broken back, scoliosis and sciatica that I deal with for almost 50 years now. Marijuana really helps me maintain an attitude where I can function. Here's front page news. Marijuana is in the news all over. There's 5 full pages devoted to medical marijuana, which is coming out in Nevada. It'll be available probably around the end of this year, for sure next summer. They're working it out right now in Reno and Sparks. They're hammering out all the details. Before ordinance, Lassen County Ordinance 575 was put into effect, there were 4 dispensaries operating in this area. There was never a problem with law enforcement. Never had any robberies or any scenes happened in any of these places. The Ordinance 575 allows me to grow my own medicine. However, there are no dispensaries in the area. If I have a bad crop, if a deer busts into my garden and eats $20,000 worth of medicine, I'd have to drive to Sacramento and pay a price that I can't afford for this medicine. So if I have to drive to Sacramento in the middle of winter to get my medicine, and I can't afford it even, how is this safe access? When we passed, the people of California passed Proposition 215 by a large margin to guarantee safe access to medical marijuana for patients in California who need it. I want to ask you, if I have to drive to Sacramento in the dead of winter to buy marijuana in the dispensary there at an outrageous price, is this safe and affordable access? We have a chance now. There are 4 people on the board who did not vote to approve Ordinance 575. So maybe we have a shot at overturning this ordinance and putting in something that will work. Right now, if I want to get the medicine, I have to drive to Sacramento, Redding, Red Bluff. If anybody up here in Alturas or in that part of the country wants to get the medicine, they have to drive over 100 miles. Now, when they put this medical marijuana thing into Nevada, it's in the law that they will accept recommendations from out of state. So with the four dispensaries that were shut down here, and this burgeoning business, I mean, it's in the news all the time. People are going to Colorado, they're taking their kids up there to treat them for epilepsy because nothing else works. Marijuana is a remarkable medicine. Sorry. Many people who have run the gamut of prescription drugs in treating various diseases that defy treatment have found relief with marijuana. This is a fact. These things are all over the internet now. Research on medical marijuana continues in the rest of the world while the U.S. is lagging behind because the federal government refuses to allow colleges and universities to study this, unless their study is based on harmful effects of marijuana. I am respectfully once more requesting my representatives to put me on the agenda so that I can give you more than 3 minutes. I want to give you 10 minutes and make a very convincing case for overturning Ordinance 575 and replacing it with something that works for the people.
Okay, Dennis, wonder.
Thank you.
Talk to your supervisor about it.
I'm sorry,
I
sir.
said, talk to your supervisor about it, because I'm not.
I just did.
Okay.
He's here, and I am respectfully requesting to be put on the agenda at some time in the near future, not right away. I know you guys got a full plate. I don't want to waste your time. And when I come in, if it's next week or if it's next month, I'm going to have the bells and whistles for you.
Dennis, we'll get you on the agenda, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else wish to speak at public comment?
I don't know if this is the right time. I was informed the Hurlong sale was agendized for today.
Any discussion on it?
If you'd like, I can address that.
Yes.
The agenda item today is to discuss inviting the successful proponents to come to the board and give an update on their progress in that. They are not going to be here today, but the item is to discuss whether or not to invite them here for that.
Well, I've got a public comment on that. I got a legal opinion from a lawyer on the Hurlong sale because it was a request for proposals and was not a stipulated cash sale, like, you know, one private person with a realtor selling to another private person with a realtor and negotiating a cash price. This sale was set and designated as economic development, that it clearly stated that the price paid had nothing to do with it being acquired by the winning bidder. It has now been 7 months. It seems like the new owners of Hurlong used deception or possibly never intended to supply said economic development. That when they submitted their signed plan for Hurlong, and it was accepted by the county, it became an ipso facto contract between the buyers and the county, the seller, that until this economic development, the stated projects that they stated in their plan come to fruition, which means they break ground and they put them in, the contract has not been fulfilled. It's no different than we were a corporation and we're selling it. We took cash and stock options. And as soon as the deed was transferred on the cash sale, the stock options were withdrawn, nullifying the contract. And where it is a real estate transaction, we have 1 year to arbitrate this issue, and then it is dead. And to enter into another sale with these same people before we get this economic impact is not in the public's interest. It's just a land giveaway where there is no binding of economic development. It's a fraud. It's just a land sale. Here, give me a couple of bucks and it's yours, good buddy. And fraud is not good for the people. And it's up to you to arbitrate this within the time limit and make sure that we get the economic development that was contracted for and they signed that they would provide. It's a binding agreement. This sale had nothing to do with the cash price and now you get to do whatever you want with it. Here's another example. Back in the 80s, before the internet, I was buying government surplus. The Army was closing out Sherman tanks in Germany. It would not be in the contract, but it was a stipulation. If I bought these tanks, I could do whatever I wanted with them, but I could not bring one nut, one block washer back into U.S. territory or I lost everything. They were going to give me the bill of sale for the tanks. They'd be mine. But if I did not comply with the terms, I lost it all. The term of this sale was economic development, clearly stated in all the paperwork to the public. And now, where's the economic development? 7 months. Not one piece of sagebrush has been removed. Not one permit has been pulled. Were they really intending to do the economic development? As a taxpayer, I have no knowledge of it. I'm not a mind reader, I don't know what was going through their mind. But right now, it looks like the taxpayer really got took, because there is no economic development in Herlong, and the ground is gone. And according to the lawyer that I talked to, we have several options. We can compel them to return the property for breach of contract. We could give them a time period to complete this work on the economic development. Or we could just say, okay, forget the economic development, give us more cash. Because the terms of the sale were for economic development.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for your comment. Anybody else wish to speak on public comment? Seeing none, we go to F1. Vacancies on every two agency on aging advisory council. Consider making an appointment, Becky Brewster.
I would make that motion.
We got a motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. I got it. G, information consent calendar, we'll go to G3. Mrs. Spencer, you want to speak on G3?
Yes, please. Last week, I pointed out that the criminal justice budget was inappropriate for putting in a generator at the annex/administration building. And the board has tabled it and to today, but now has moved it into an ACO account. But the problem with that is you didn't budget anything in the ACO account for this generator. And so what you've done in the past, well, this is a kind of a unique situation that happened, but in the past, when you wanted to move money after the budget's been approved, you've put it on the agenda. I think you put it on the agenda to make adjustments to the budget. I see on the agenda that has not been done. So this really has to be tabled again in order to transfer the funds from 126 to 119. Because as you can see by the handout from the budget sheet, you don't have any appropriations for them for this fiscal year. The paper I just handed out is when you gave Mr. Nichols a $5,000 raise and it wasn't in the budget. And so this was the process then to move money to give him his $5,000 raise into the budget. So I'm asking that you follow your own procedures and table this again and do the appropriate action and transfer this $115,000 into the ACO account.
Richard?
Would you like me to address
Yeah,
that?
sure.
Sure. So the 13-14 budget included funding for a generator at the criminal justice facilities fund that we discussed last week. Budget also included $400,000 in the accumulated capital outlay fund for the generic line item of equipment. I think it was envisioned that that may be used for control boards in the jail, which it has not this fiscal year. So last week we had the discussion about the appropriateness of paying for the generator out of the Criminal Justice Facilities Fund. Arguments could be made on both sides of that issue. Since the jail and the sheriff's department utilizes the radio equipment that's housed on Courthouse Square, the argument could be made that that's an appropriate expenditure. I tend to think that, as the auditor suggested last week, it's more appropriate to come out of the ACO appropriation, because that generator would be used for all sorts of different functions, including allowable functions, but not specifically that. And there were funds budgeted in the equipment line item of the accumulated capital outlay fund. So that's why I brought forth the recommendation to pay for that out of the ACO fund. The control boards would, I think without question, be an allowable expenditure out of the Criminal Justice Facility Construction Fund, and I would suggest that as we adopt next year's budget, we appropriate those funds, a portion of the purchase for the control boards out of that Criminal Justice Facility Fund, because I just think it's a more appropriate line item to take it out of. As far as making appropriation transfers between one budget unit or another, my opinion is that the general line item of equipment in the ACO fund is general enough in nature to utilize it to buy this generator. Others may have differing opinions, and I'd be happy to have that discussion.
Any questions?
Yeah, do you have backup generation there now?
No.
Aaron, any questions? I don't see an issue. I mean, equipment, the generator is obviously his equipment. I don't think that should be. If he did not have a line item equipment, I would say bring it back.
There is a little bit of confusion, because for some reason there is a line item in, and this is not, I don't think this is the final adopted,
Yes, it is.
but is it
It
okay?
is a final one.
There is a line item for generator in that that's blank. I can't speak to why that's in there. I just don't know.
What's Karen's suggestion?
When I spoke with Karen, she's not here today, I don't want to speak for her, but our discussions were that the ACO fund would be the most appropriate place to take the funds out of.
The ACO fund is out of the line item equipment.
Yes.
So why do we have generator listed on, I mean, can you speak to that?
I can't really speak to that. Julie's not here. I just don't know. There may have been discussions about specifically identifying that in that budget unit, but I don't know.
And so what you're saying on this is the equipment that's listed in the ACO for $400,000. In next year's budget, that's gonna be switched over to the criminal justice for the control board, or a portion of that money?
Not exactly. I would suggest that, and I think we're getting kind of into budget discussion, but I
Right.
think the control boards for both the juvenile hall and the jail are gonna be somewhere around the $500,000 price. And I would suggest that we pay for $150,000 of that out of the Criminal Justice Facility Construction Fund, and the remainder out of this ACO fund.
Okay.
Any more questions? Any questions, Ms. Butler? Mrs. Spencer?
You have proper procedures to follow. And I personally am very uncomfortable for making this exception. You sign off on this budget, you do. The department heads, the CAO head, they have input, but you sign off on this. And clearly, there, on the ACO, there's clearly a generator line item, which you did not use for this generator. And so I'm really concerned about the willy-nilliness of your using your procedures, not using your procedures. This is really simple and clear. You need to transfer the money into here or vote to put something in that line. There's nothing in there at all. And if you can do this with that, the public has to feel really uncomfortable with you and you're moving the money around. I'm uncomfortable with it, and the public should feel uncomfortable with it if you don't even follow your own procedures.
Any more discussion?